I realized a few months ago that I had filmed a video and I was like, hey BFF, I've been in the ICU, here's what happened. And I never filled you in on anything after that. So I decided to fill you in on what's been happening with that didn't work, what's been happening with my physical and mental health after that whole ordeal while I get ready for work today. And I'm not really going to be like bouncing back to say like exactly what happened. So if you are new here, because I've gotten a lot of new friends since then, I will be linking that video at the end of today's video. The acrobatics my mind has been going through lately. And I know that this is going to be in a like direct opposition of a video that I'm going to be posting later on in the month. But you know what? Two things can happen in a person's mind at the exact same time or within the same time period. And that's okay. I just think that's part of being human. I've been essentially having an ongoing low-key existential crisis since the beginning of January of this year. So I already had a cardiologist because of prior heart issues, and now I have a pulmonologist and a hematologist. And the hematologist ran a whole bunch of tests. She did a whole bunch of like the regular panels, and all of those came back negative, and she asked if I wanted to get off of my blood thinners for a week or so that she could run a more involved test. Everything, obviously, because doctors do that, they leave literally everything up to you after they like lay everything out for you. She was like, we can do this test if you want to know, like just to have in the back of your mind that like, yes, 100% you do have this blood disease or you don't have this blood disorder. She said, the end result's going to be the same. I'm going to keep you on blood, or rather, I'm going to recommend that you stay on blood thinners the rest of your life. So it's just really, do you want to know if you have it? And I opted not to because it worries me to get off of blood thinners for any period of time. It definitely did before because like I had that gut feeling if you get off of the blood thinners, something potentially bad will happen. And if you remember from my get ready with me before, I was like, hey, I need shoulder surgery. There's something in me that I'm like, this isn't gonna go well. And we see how that turned out. So I was like, you know what? No, unless there's an issue somewhere down the line, I don't want to get off of the blood thinners just to do the test. And she was like, okay, cool. And then she goes on to be like, well, of course, this is all completely up to you if you want to stay on the blood thinners because, you know, that comes with risks of itself. She gave me all of these things that could happen, but she was like, here is why I am recommending that if you're okay with it, you stay on blood thinners the rest of your life. She told me that it was really like pretty much a miracle that I had survived the type of pulmonary emboli that I had. And like with their location and the type, she was like, usually that like does people in, it kills them. And she was like, but you were youngish, you were strong, not that many health concerns. So that is, you know, that's why potentially I think you pulled through. But she looked me, this appointment, by the way, was at 9 o'clock in the morning. So at 9 o'clock in the morning, she looked me dead in the eyes, very serious. She was like, it's a miracle you survived. And the next time you get something like this, you will 100% die. And that was like words cannot express, and I don't know how. I haven't talked about this with many people even in like my everyday life because I can't verbalize how that has spiraled me. And so I'm going to try my best to do it today because I feel like I need to talk to somebody about this. What better than people on the internet to talk to about this? I took the whole day off because when our half day would have butted up of like when the appointment would have ended. So anyway, but I'm glad I did because I went home and I sat on the sofa and literally just stared into space pretty much the rest of the day until it was like dinner time. I'm glad she told me. I don't like doctors who like beats around the bush and is like, well, you know, like Beaker from the Muppets, like, tell me what is wrong. Tell me what all of my potential outcomes are. I want to know in advance. I'm not going to like harp on the negative, but I want to know if there's like a chance of potentially like she said, like potentially dying if this happens again. I want to know about that chance. So I'm really glad that she told me, but it also left me with this big feeling of like, and I've always felt this way, but now more so than ever, what am I doing with my life? What am I doing with my life? I guess that's where the crisis is coming from because, and if anyone who works with me or like comes into contact with me on a daily basis watches this, I do enjoy my job. Don't get me wrong whenever I say that. I enjoy my job. I like the school that I work for. I feel there's so much more in life I could be doing. And there's life to live, and because of the job that I have, with the workload and how little I get paid with the job, that's the two things. I feel like I haven't been able to go out and live life. I don't have the money that whenever like we have time off, which really isn't time off because I'm doing things like going to doctor appointments or doing work, like grading papers, things like that on my time off. But it's not even like I could have the money to go and do things to have time off. Does that make sense? So it's like all of this of like, okay, so I haven't gone everywhere. I haven't done all of these things that I want to do. And now it's like this in the back of my mind. I am very thankful for the time that I have left. Like, I feel like that's like a privilege now, that like growing older is a privilege now that I potentially may not have had. But it's also like in the back of my mind, oh, you could die at any moment. And I know that like literally anyone could die at any moment. That's the whole point of being a human. But to actually like hear it and have your mind wrap around it, that's where like I'm spiraling and I'm having a crisis every so often. Like, it hasn't been bad that like I'm keeping it in the back of my mind. That's why it's March and I'm still thinking of it. So there's been that. There's that portion that I really didn't. I had it when I was in the hospital and after the fact. Like, I cried a lot after the fact when I was released from the hospital, because it was like, oh shit, like this is serious. Like, it was a definite life-altering thing. But like, I had gotten over it. Not really gotten over it, but you know what I mean? Like, I had like learned to live with it, sort of thing, live with that thought process in the back of my mind. But now it's back, and it's back like tenfold. And yeah, that's mentally what I have been dealing with. And also mentally what I've been dealing with is people and their expectations. I guess because the type of blood clots that I had is a thing that kills people. I don't know many people who know someone who have had this, who have survived. So their like expectations of like what I should be able to do right now during my recovery process is so out of touch with what actually is the things that I'm able to do. One, I think people, when they're not experiencing something themselves, it's like they don't care. Like, you know what I mean? There are some very empathetic people, but the majority of the people, either that or I just have really crappy people that surround me in life. Overall, if they're like, they don't. Okay. So, and they think, I noticed this was a thing that most everyone at like the 2-month mark to 3-month mark, because at the 2-month mark or 2.5-month mark, I didn't have to use my oxygen tanks anymore. And I was able to walk around, still having a lot of issues breathing, but I was able to walk around a little bit more and do a few more things without the aid of any sort of oxygen. So I think like that, when people saw that those tanks went away, they just automatically assumed I was 100% better. And because we're all so self-involved in our life, didn't even bother to ask how things were going. You know, they do the whole like, oh, how are you feeling? Like when I'd see them, but like, you know, you can tell they don't really care. And anytime that it comes up that it's like, oh, I'm still having issues, currently have still some like travel restrictions, you know, things like that. I'm not able to do XYZ. They always give me this like deadpan look, and they're like, you still can't do that? No, I still can't do that. And I want to be like, but then I know I would be the rude one. No, I still can't do this. Do you realize how serious the things that I went through were and the things I'm still going through are? And so that's another thing of like, not only am I dealing with this crisis in the back of my mind, I'm dealing with people who are not sympathetic or empathetic to what I'm going through at all. And it's not that they're not, it's that they don't want to be. Like, they don't want to care. Yeah. So I'm having to put up with that as well as recovering. And so let's talk about that recovery process then. Like I said, I was seeing a cardiologist predating the blood clots. He ran a whole bunch of tests to make sure that my heart had not been damaged, which thankfully it wasn't, because one of the blood clots was leaning against the heart for so long that in the hospital, the hospitalist, is that what he was called? The hospital doctor, the floor doctor, did warn of that could potentially be an issue. So that is all good. I still have, it's getting better, but my heart still does race from time to time, which, to be honest, it was happening before then. Before all of this, because the irregular heartbeat that I have is that my heart literally skips a beat every so often. My heart and my body will sense that and beat a few more times to catch up. So a lot of times I do feel like my heart is racing, but when I say my heart is still racing from time to time, it means like walking normally and my heart rate will shoot up to like 130 the 130s or high 130s. If you don't know, that's not normal. It was happening a lot more towards the beginning, like let's see, this happened all in July. So from like August to, I would say, November, December, it was happening a lot. Like I would take like 3 steps and it would shoot up. And now it only really does that if I'm like really like pacing myself, trying like speed walking, trying to get somewhere, or exercising, which I'm allowed to do now. Yay! Clearance from him to start exercising. I also went to a pulmonologist who did a test on me, one test in office, to see, because I was having trouble catching my breath, and like once again, walking, it would just like get me completely out of breath. When I have to walk from like my classroom to the other side of the school, and the school's not all that big, I'd have to like sit on a bench to catch my breath. That seemed to be an issue to me, so I went to see a pulmonologist. She did like the CT scans, or my GP did the CT scans. Anyway, I had CT scans done. The blood clots are no longer there. It showed no sign that I had dead lung, which was good, because that's another thing that in the hospital they were really concerned about because of the size and the amount of blood clots that I had. And so she did all of the tests. Everything came back negative as far as I know. And I say as far as I know because over Christmas break, we did a breathing test where I'm so glad I'm not claustrophobic when I tell you, I had to sit in a little spaceship pod sort of thing. The door closed. A tool was put in my mouth to measure my breathing. The voice was piped in. That was like,
all right, take a deep breath and blow out for 6 seconds.
It was creepy. It was so creepy. I was supposed to be able to go and talk with the doctor. I had an appointment, which she canceled. So I see her later this month to see exactly what it is that's wrong. My breathing is getting better. She did recommend, as far as it was cleared with the cardiologist, which it was, to start doing some really low impact light exercising. I will ride my exercise bike and walk, just, like walk in place in my living room, because I don't want to go and walk outside and get too far away and get out of breath and lightheaded. And I think that doing that indoors, both of those things, is really helping my lungs. That, and I have been doing some breathing exercises on my own, really been helping things. I find that I don't get out of breath as easily with doing things, and my heart doesn't shoot up as often. Both of those things still do happen. I find a lot that when I'm editing videos are much longer than, obviously because I'm editing them, they appear to you, but one of the reasons that they're so much longer is because I have to cut out the parts that like I take deep breaths. So like that sort of thing. And that happens quite a lot still when I'm talking. Good news though, I get to go back and try my hand at singing, which is my second job. So really excited about that. This is actually my first weekend that I'm doing this. Excited about that, a little bit nervous about that, but glad that I'm going to get that extra income back, but also that I'm starting to be able to do things, normal life things a little bit more. As far as restrictions that I still do have, because I had quite a lot of them, and I know in that last video I talked about all of the restrictions that I do have. I don't really have all too many. The only restrictions that I still do currently have are dealing with travel, because sitting for a long time, there's always the potential that the clots could form again, but there's a heightened potential of that. I'm not, for the time being, allowed to travel very far. I'm able to get to work and, now both my jobs, and like go and drive to my parents' house. They live 20-ish, 30 minutes away. So I'm able to do those sort of things, but really much farther than that, currently I'm not allowed to do. And then when I am able to travel, and don't get me wrong, I'm excited, even that I'm still going to be able to travel. I will have to, if I'm in a plane, I will have to get up and walk around for like every hour to hour and a half, which I know that that's like a best practices anyway, but like, I do that on long haul flights, but if I'm going to be in the air for like 3 hours, that just seems awkward to me. The thing that's going to be super inconvenient, but once again, I'm going to be happy that I can travel. If I'm in a car, so if I'm taking a road trip, which is by and far, if you're not from the States, the cheapest and easiest way to travel in the United States, I'm going to have to do that. I'm going to have to stop wherever I am, get out the car and walk around every hour or every hour and a half. Do you know how long it's gonna take me to get places? So usually whenever we drive, easy way to get to Disney World from where we are, it's usually a 14 to 16 hour trip depending on the traffic. And I've done it in a day, coming from Disney back home. But you know, usually we break it up. Drive, sleep the night, and then it's like maybe a 3-hour, 4-hour trip at most into Disney Magic. But now it's still going to be a 2-day travel day, but it's going to be like the second day is going to be like probably a full travel day for me when I'm driving. So that's another thing I'm just trying to like wrap my mind around, and that's probably in my mind a bigger deal than it's going to be. I've always been a person who does like to stop. Like I'm not a like we're driving straight there sort of person to get a bite or whenever I need to tank up the car or just to walk around. But yeah, this is definitely going to be different every hour to hour and a half. It's been forever since I've worn red lipstick or really anything that wasn't like a lip gloss or a lip oil or a lip balm or something like that. Yeah, I think I still like it. But anyway, so that's what's been up with me. Let me know in the comments down below what has been up with you. How have you been doing? I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your day with me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And if you want to know exactly what I was talking about in today's video, watch this video right now.